The White House border czar Tom Homan was recorded on an FBI surveillance tape in September 2024, accepting $50,000 in cash. Did he keep that money or give it back?
George, you've covered the story ad nauseum. Tom Homan did not take a bribe. It's a ridiculous smear. And the reason you guys are going after Tom Homan so aggressively is because he's doing the job of enforcing the law.
ABC News host George Stephanopoulos, looking and sounding like a ventriloquist dummy, suddenly come to life, desperately trying to hype up a so-called mystery tape involving Tom Homan, as if it's the next Watergate. The problem? J.D. Vance walks in calm and composed and completely dismantles the entire charade right there in real time. What started as a smug attempt to build a fake scandal turns into a humiliating implosion for Stephanopoulos, as Vance exposes not only the lie itself but the entire operating model of the network. The meltdown that follows ends exactly as expected, with Stephanopoulos rage quitting the interview the moment his narrative collapses. Welcome to NERC News, where the mask slips off establishment media and their propaganda gets torn apart. While corporate outlets keep manufacturing scandals when the facts don't fit their agenda, reality always finds a way to hit back hard. It's almost poetic. Right as Democrats trigger a government shutdown and Americans face real struggles, ABC News suddenly digs up a months-old disproven bribery rumor to distract the public. But J.D. Vance doesn't just push back. He obliterates the hypocrisy, calling out the network for what it really is: a machine designed to twist fiction into outrage while hoping no one notices the timing. Here's how he begins his verbal takedown of smug Stephanopoulos over the recent Letitia James indictment.
Let me also ask you, as we saw the indictment this week of Letitia James on questions of mortgage fraud, also Lisa Cook has been accused by the Trump administration of committing mortgage fraud as well. The journalism outlet ProPublica has actually published a story, and I want to show it up on the screen right now, that says that several members of the Trump administration have faced similar questions. Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer entered into 2 primary residence mortgages in quick succession. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has primary residence mortgages in New Jersey and Washington, D.C. Lee Zeldin, the Environmental Protection Agency administrator, has 1 primary residence mortgage in Long Island and another in Washington, D.C. How do you respond to critics who say that the Trump administration is engaging in a double standard here?
Well, I'd say 2 things, George. First of all, ProPublica is basically a left-wing blog. I'm not shocked that you found a left-wing blog that can attack members of the Trump administration. But second, and this is the most important, is what does the law say? Letitia James was indicted in a left-leaning part of our country, a part that voted very heavily against Donald J. Trump, for the crime of mortgage fraud. When I read the indictment, when I read the facts in the case, I see a person who committed mortgage fraud. Now, of course, the jury is going to decide whether she ultimately committed a crime. We don't try her. The administration doesn't try her. A judge tries the case, and a jury decides whether she's ultimately guilty. That is what is going to determine whether she goes to prison. I think we let the facts drive this. And, George, that's what we've tried to do in the administration's Department of Justice. We've asked ourselves, has the person violated the law? And if that person has violated the law, then we decide to prosecute him. That's what the Department of Justice should do. It didn't do that under Joe Biden's administration. It does under Donald Trump's.
On the facts, do you dispute the facts that ProPublica reported?
Do I dispute a far-left blog that I haven't read that you brought up in this interview? I have no idea, George. I have no idea what they actually said. But I certainly question the source. I question their credibility. And most importantly, I'm not worried about what they said about members of our administration. I ask the question, what does the law say? And if the law says that you engage in mortgage fraud, and a local prosecutor, a local grand jury, and finally a jury convicts you of that crime, then that is how the justice system is meant to work in the United States of America.
Media spin unraveling in real time looks like. Letitia James isn't some innocent political target. She was indicted by a grand jury in one of the bluest strongholds in the country for lying on her own mortgage forms. That's not revenge. That's accountability. The irony is painful. Stephanopoulos clings to a ProPublica blog post as if it's sacred scripture, pretending it's real investigative journalism when it's actually partisan cover fire. J.D. Vance calls it exactly what it is: desperation from a side running out of narratives. He reminds everyone that the Trump DOJ applied the law fairly, while Democrats have weaponized it to punish their opposition and protect their own. But the most humiliating moment comes when Stephanopoulos tries to resurrect the already debunked Tom Homan bribery tape. Vance hits him so hard with verifiable facts that the host completely loses his composure. At that point, it's not even a debate. It's an autopsy of media credibility. The clip ends with Stephanopoulos storming off like a man who just realized his script could.
I think it's really preposterous. I know Tom. I think that he's a good man. He gets death threats. He gets attacked. He gets constantly threatened by people because he has the audacity to want to enforce the country's immigration laws. I think that it would be a much more interesting story about why is it that Tom Homan, who is simply enforcing Americans' immigration laws, is getting constantly harassed and threatened to the point of death threats. That's a much more interesting question that I think journalists should focus on. We can agree to disagree on that question.
Well, wait, you said he didn't take a bribe, but I'm not sure you answered the question. Are you saying that he did not accept the $50,000?
Media reports that Tom Homan accepted a bribe. There's no evidence of that. And here's, George, why fewer and fewer people watch your program and why you're losing credibility. Because you're talking for now 5 minutes with the Vice President of the United States about this story regarding Tom Homan, a story that I've read about, but I don't even know the video that you're talking about. Meanwhile, low-income women can't get food because the Democrats and Chuck Schumer have shut down the government. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to pay our troops because Chuck Schumer has shut down the government. You are focused on a bogus story. You're insinuating criminal wrongdoing against a guy who has done nothing wrong instead of focusing on the fact that our country is struggling because our government's shut down. Let's talk about the real issues, George. I think the American people would benefit much more from that than from you going down some weird left-wing rabbit hole where the facts clearly show that Tom Homan didn't engage in any criminal wrongdoing.
It's not a weird left-wing rabbit hole. I didn't insinuate anything. I asked you whether Tom Homan accepted $50,000, as was heard on an audio tape recorded by the FBI in September 2024, and you did not answer the question. Thank you for your time this morning.
No, George, I said that I don't.
Up next,
Seeing here is the entire establishment media playbook laid bare, step by step. They take an unverified rumor, repeat it until it feels true, and then demand everyone else prove it false. J.D. Vance flips that manipulation on its head. He calmly states the obvious. There's no indictment, no charges, no leaked tape, and multiple internal reviews have already cleared Tom Homan. It's a scandal made of thin air, yet it dominates airtime because truth isn't profitable. Outrage is. Vance reminds viewers that Homan's only real crime was doing his job, enforcing immigration law, while enduring death threats from the same activist mobs the media portrays as heroes. Meanwhile, George Stephanopoulos ignores real issues like American families struggling through a Democrat-caused shutdown, choosing instead to chase a non-existent headline. By the end, Vance doesn't just win the exchange. He exposes the entire operation as theater for clicks, not journalism. It's the kind of moment that proves why independent voices matter now more than ever. When legacy networks collapse under their own contradictions, someone has to hold the line. So tell me, did J.D. Vance completely destroy Stephanopoulos and the media's selective outrage by turning their own tactics against them? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to NERC News, because we're not just watching the meltdown, we're documenting it, one broadcast at a time.